And our first speaker in the first session is Anelda van der Walt, and she will be presenting on afrimapr.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thanks to the organizers for putting on this wonderful event. I'm looking forward to be talking to you about our package that we'll be developing over the next few years. It's called afrimapr. And I hope you're going to enjoy it. I know it's a very diverse audience, so I try to put something in that will be of use to people from industry and academia, non-profits, and general people of the public. So I hope you enjoy it. Please feel free to ask questions. What I'm going to share with you are really things that I've learned in the last month. So I'm quite new to much of what I'm going to be telling you about. But if there are questions and there are people in the audience who can answer those questions, if I can't, please feel free to chip in. So when I started putting together this presentation, I was a bit intimidated to have to talk for 20 minutes about a new topic. But when I thought about it, I realized there's a lot of things in this project that I'm really, really passionate about. One of those are open data and the open science movement. Another one is making an impact and empowering people. So this project, maybe a little bit about myself. I'm Anelda van der Walt. I run a small consulting company in South Africa, helping researchers to adopt technology in their own research to enhance their impact and to make them more employable in industry if that's what they choose to do, so students and researchers. So my own background is in bioinformatics, but now I work across the board with social sciences, humanities, and much more. And this... Oh, gosh. Thank you. Why is it showing? Helping researchers to use technology, right? Okay, no, I can't see. Okay, that happens. I think you know enough about me now. Okay, so this is this is the team that we're working on this project. The lead group of developers are actually based in the UK, and you might ask, hello, UK developing for Africa? But in this case, it's a really good deal because we get a lot of resources, a lot of experienced people who have been working in Africa, in South America, and in other places, not only the UK. And they're making a big effort to include and build an African community. So the project is a one-year funded project through the Welcome Open Research Fund, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it because you'll find that it might be relevant to you. And what we're planning to do is to develop our building blocks that will make it easier to display openly available or private data on maps to help influence policy, help decision makers allocate funding and things like that, mostly for new users to R. So we'll have developers developing the code, but we're hoping to target the building blocks that we'll develop at new users of R. And what we're hoping to do, what we promise to do in the project is that we'll run workshops in the UK, in Malawi, South Africa, and Ethiopia. So if you're interested in running a workshop with us, please get in touch via the Twitter handle or there's contact details later on. So the fund is, as I said, through the Welcome Open Research Fund. Welcome is a UK-based foundation with no political or governmental links. And their aim is to help make health data, help make an impact in health research and impact, really, health impact. This specific fund is available to early career researchers, preferably someone with a PhD, but not much more than 5-year experience after their PhD. And it was open to individuals, people from non-profit organizations, and even people from a private sector, so people in the audience, right? We applied for the fund, and that's where the group of people that on the second slide comes from. We kind of developed the proposal together and submitted it and received the funding. So the project only kicked off in January this year, so really fresh. But where does this project come from? Like, why UK researchers working in Africa developing stuff to make maps? Because there's a lot of resources already available to make maps and to get data onto maps. But what we want to do is really to make mapping available, not at country level, but at lower administrative boundary levels, right? So we're talking about provinces, municipalities, even ward level. And funny enough, that's quite a trick, and I'll get to that just now. So Andy South, the project lead, worked with some people last year to develop this malaria data by district app, which is a web app using, there's just a screenshot. So they were using openly available data from the Malaria Atlas project and boundary data from FAO, which is a UN organization, and then China and Leaflet to make the data available so that policy makers can go to this app, click on the boundary level, the administrative levels that they're interested in, and download the data and the maps to see what's happening for their own districts, for example. That was a prototype made in the UK, and when the guys did this, they realized this is not trivial. There's actually really a lot of things that you have to hack to make work. So that's where the whole idea of getting building blocks to make this kind of app, the development of this kind of app, easier for other people. So there's some lessons learned already. And as I mentioned, what we're looking at is getting public data available mapped onto administrative boundaries at different levels, and then allowing people to use the tools that they're familiar with, the Tidyverse suite of tools, and then display that data via a web interface using Shiny and Leaflet, for example. Now, where do you get open data? Some people in the audience from industry might not be that familiar with the Open Science Drive and the Open Data Drive. And yay, the good news is there is an amazing amount of data available these days that you can combine with your own data, with in-house data, that you combine across open data sets. And there's some resources where you can find information and data sets that you can download that is under various open licenses. Specifically, the Humanitarian Data Exchange is a phenomenal resource. I've been looking at this the past week. It's amazing what people are doing to make this world a better place, right? And also, in research, there's a massive drive to make data that comes from research project that was funded by public money, like our tax money, to make that data available. And there are some resources that you can look at, repositories that has links to other repositories that houses data sets. Again, a lot of caveats about the quality of the data, how you can use it. But the thing is, these data sets are starting to become available, and it's something that you can engage with the authors to make use of. So now, talking about the administrative boundaries, where do you get that? And again, from the Humanitarian exchange, a data exchange, this is kind of the places where you can get it from. And you might ask, but isn't there, can't you just get it from a specific person in every country? And the answer is no. It is not that simple. So there are some somewhat authoritative resources, again, from the Humanitarian Data Exchange. And you can see that, that some of the data sources are quite outdated. Some of them don't have information about historical boundaries compared to what it is like today. So if you have historical data, do you display it on this boundaries of today or on the historical boundaries, things like that. But what about OpenStreetMaps and Google Maps? We all use it. The thing is, that's not authoritative, right? So you have to be careful when you are going to help policymakers to make decisions on where money is spent, where interventions are hosted. Are you using the right boundaries, your statistics? For example, I'm going to show you a shot there. It's a really good paper by Tembani Mkhize and Zamkilizwe Kanyile about how just Gauteng's boundaries have been changing over the past few years, right? And you can see there's no pattern. It isn't like overhauled every 2 years or every 6 years. It's 5 years, then 1 year, then 2 years, then... And where's this information, right? So now if you were you developing a policy for making a change in certain municipalities in Gauteng, you might have your statistics wrong because it's mapped onto the old boundaries, right? So you might be allocating funding to the wrong places. So that's just to show you why this is important, right? It's all new to me. I was fascinated to learn about these things, which has a real impact to the people of our country and every other country, right? So, as I said, we have already learned some lessons from the previous development. This is some feedback from one of the reviewers of the MAD app, and exactly what they're saying there. People would want to see different boundaries overlaid onto each other from different sources, and also how are we going to deal with the changing boundaries. And so Andy, the project lead, have already started to develop the first package, only in month 2 of the project, really exciting. It's kind of high pressure project, right, because it's only 1 year, it's funded for 1 year, so we have to deliver in order to be able to get more funding and grow the community and get feedback. And what we've been doing was to look at loading the different boundaries from different resources. And here is a screenshot from Humanitarian data exchange compared to the authoritative data source. And you can see the blue lines, how it differs from the red lines. And you can imagine, based on the information that I just gave you, what that will mean in terms of deciding where to host interventions, allocating funding, and things like that. This is it's mapping, it's R, we have to have something that moves. So there's just map, Andy did the same thing for all the countries, all the layers that we already have available, levels, the data that we have available. The sum of level 1, level 2. The good news is there's already, so we start the project with learning resources already available from 2 of our collaborators on the project. Those are 2 open books that you can refer to. I've just started to work through the G computation with R, and I'm finding it amazing. I'm really building you up from the beginning of how to do mapping, what to look out for, what is raster, what is the other one? You see, new. And then also, if you're specifically interested in geospatial health data, then you can look at the other resource. And what we'll be doing is we'll be working with these 2 collaborators who have already developed open books in Bookdown, if I remember correctly, to develop something for our own and newly developed packages as well. If you want to get in, so the purpose of why I'm talking here today is to tell you that this exists, and to tell you that we're looking for a community of people who can contribute code, who can use the packages and give feedback, who can tell other people about this initiative, who might be interested to fund this initiative going forward, because really what we have to do, and that's actually on my last slide, is that we have to find a way to make this sustainable so that it's not just another open source project that's come and gone, right? Because I think this really has the potential to make a big impact worldwide, not only in Africa. So the other thing that I have to say is, again, the whole UK-based developers focusing on Africa. We're using Africa as a case study, but the problems that we're going to be trying to solve in this package will be applicable across the world, right? Because it's the same problems, but we just decided to focus on Africa for this project. If you have contacts who has the up-to-date information about admin boundaries, those are people that we absolutely would like to get on board for the project. As I said, it's not there isn't a one contact person in every country that you know where to go to, so you kind of have to find them through the networks. And remember, it's early stages of the project. It is a research project, and so it's not a commercial industry project, So we are going to do the best we can. We're going to try really hard to respond to comments and suggestions. But please be patient, and we also will update our code of conduct just to make it a safe place for people to collaborate and contribute. As I was mentioning, we're definitely going to have to look for continuous funding. Andy is already speaking to players in the field, people who work on similar projects in the UN, WHO, and other places. We're really hoping that through the work that we'll be doing this year, that we'll be able to build up more of a case to get this funded for in the longer term. And then to get real users who can break the system and tell us what we're doing wrong and where we're making the wrong assumptions when we're developing. Those are our contact details. We have a website, afrimapr.org. It was developed last week, so if you find errors, there's a GitHub repository. You can let us know, or you can email us. And follow the project on Twitter if you want, afrimapr. And there's also, we've just started a Google group again. New to this, we're going to try and see if that's a good way to get to make it easily accessible to maybe people who aren't using GitHub yet. So maybe more the users of this. And I think that's my whole story. Thank you very much for the time. I have never spoken in my time limit, so thank you very much.